So there is this general misconception, I think, that a lot of people are out there spreading that the Linux community is toxic, especially the Linux support community. So if you go to any kind of Linux support forum or chat room or subreddit, whatever it happens to be, mailing list, if you go to any support community and you ask a question, people are going to be mean to you, and that the Linux community as a whole is toxic because somebody on the Arch forums, for example, told you to go read the manual because you didn't do enough research for your question, and that is somehow toxic. Well, I actually don't think it's those people that are freely giving their time in support channels. I don't think they're the ones that are toxic. I actually think it's the people asking for help, coming at it in completely the wrong way and in sometimes very disrespectful ways. Those people are actually the ones that are displaying the toxicity. So I have noticed that there is a small but not an insignificant percentage of people that come to support channels, and especially Linux and free and open source software support channels. But really, this could be for any kind of support channel, forum, chat room, whatever it happens to be. There is a small percentage of these people that are what I call help vampires. Help vampires, they're kind of a subset of psychic vampires or energy vampires. I've talked about these before on camera. The psychic vampire, sometimes called the energy vampire. This is a person that tries to drain you of all your energy, your life force. They basically are trying to feed on you. They're a parasitic type of person. They want you to do everything for them. Everything, the whole relationship between you and them is about how they can basically benefit from you and how you never benefit from anything from them, right? It is a strictly one-way street with you and that energy vampire. Well, the help vampire is a similar creature. The help vampire, though, is much more specific. This is that person hanging out in that support forum, that Discord chat room, whatever it happens to be. This is the person that comes there and demands your help, right? And usually they don't want to do any work at all on their part, right? They want you to do everything for them. They usually treat you rather poorly. They're not asking questions in a respectful or polite manner, right? They demand you do this thing for them, and you're supposed to do it. Why? Because they said so. Now, the good thing is that it's very easy to spot help vampires, right? There are clear signs that this person asking this question is one of these help vampires. For example, if you're in a forum or a Discord chat room, is somebody asking the same question repeatedly, right? Like multiple times and very quickly? Do they demand to be heard? Are they typing in all caps, right? That is a clear sign that that person is a help vampire. They seem to think that they're much more important than everybody else sitting in that support room, right? And they have to jump ahead of the line. That's a clear sign that person is a help vampire. Another clear sign is, did this person do any research on their own up to and including a 30-second Google search? Because the help vampire, they won't even do a simple Google search asking the question they're asking you. They won't type it in Google first, right? That's not what they do, because Google can't do anything for them. Google is not going to solve their problem for them as far as doing all the work. They need to actually ask a real human being that question. That's why they don't Google it, all right? You are their Google, but you're more than their Google. You are the person that eventually is going to do all the work for them. Congratulations. And usually the way people word things, their demeanor, usually you can tell that these help vampires, often they're not even interested in getting an answer for their question. They don't care whether you answer the question or not. They're only there to get their work done. So really, all of their questions are designed to bait well-meaning, well-intentioned people into doing all the work for them. That's what they're trying to accomplish. Other signs that someone is a help vampire is, does this person ask really vague and incoherent questions? Help vampires, they love asking questions that no one could possibly answer, especially really generalized things like, hey, I get this kind of question all the time from people, and some of these people clearly would be help vampires if I actually answered this question. I just ignore people when they ask me things like, hey, how can I create my own Linux distro? Well, what kind of question is that? I'd have to tell them everything about what creates a Linux operating system. I'd have to talk about the kernel and the core utils and building a package manager with repos of software and compiling software, binary packaging, and then we'd have to get into how to create possibly a ISO and an installer. It would be a very deep kind of answer. I literally could write a book about how to create a Linux distro, right? That's such a generalized question. I would never even attempt to answer somebody that asked such a vague question. I've seen similar things on other kinds of tech forums over the years, like web dev forums, like, hey, how can I create a website just like Facebook? Nobody is going to answer that kind of question, right? Nobody with any sense anyway, because we know that we're going to get pulled into this trap that is a very deep rabbit hole that is going to involve me giving a ton of free work for no real reason, because all of this information I would give you anyway. Again, it's in the Google machine, right? All you do is go type that question in Google and then spend the next few weeks, few months, especially on some of these deeper subjects, doing the work yourself. Another thing to watch out for is the person asking the question, are they angry? Do they get angry, especially when they don't like the support you're providing, or in some cases, they just don't like the answers you give, even though your answers are 100% fact. That is the answer to the question you asked, but for whatever reason, they didn't want that answer. They wanted some other answer, so they get angry at you. That's a help vampire. So when I see people that criticize certain communities in the Linux space or the open source software space, for example, when I see people criticize the Arch community is one that gets criticized all the time, and I think unfairly. I've mentioned this before. I think some of the criticism that the Arch community gets is unfounded, because in many cases, I think the Arch community is one of the healthiest communities. Why? It's because they shun help vampires, right? As soon as help vampires show up, they push them out. Hey, go away. We don't have time for you. RTFM, go read the effing manual. And that's the right response. The reason is because these help vampires, they only hang around in communities where they can feed off of other people. If you cut off that food source, they go away. They go to some other community and try to feed on those people. So the Arch community does the right thing, right? They cut off that food supply. When I go to the Arch forums or the Arch subreddit, or view any of those Arch related communities, it is essentially a help vampire free zone, right? They're not around. They don't hang out there, right? They hang out in much more friendly places. And I get it. A lot of open source software communities, especially, they try to be overly friendly and helpful. Everybody wants to be liked, right? And so when people show up, when these help vampires show up to some of these more friendly communities, they try to help these vampires, right? And what does that do? Well, you're feeding these creatures, and now they hang around. They stick around a little longer because, hey, they're going to keep mooching off of you as long as they can. And eventually they're going to suck this energy out of the leaders of this project, whoever's helping them, the support leader, sometimes the main dev of a project. All of these help vampires are attacking these leaders in that community. And what happens? Well, once you drain all of the energy out of those leaders, what happens to that community? Right? It's weaker, right? And sometimes it dies. So again, I think it's actually healthy for a community just not to give any time or energy at all to these help vampires. I think you just push them out immediately as soon as you spot them, because the signs are clear when somebody is one of these help vampires. Now, some of you watching this video, you may have exhibited some of this help vampire-like behavior in the past. You may be sitting there as I was going through some of the signs that somebody is a help vampire. You may have been going, hey, you know what? I've done that before. Well, if you think you might be one of these help vampires and you want to overcome it, there are some things you can do to get over that affliction. Number one, and by far the most important thing you can do when you ask about help for anything at all in life, learn to use Google and any other search engine. Learn also to use AI chatbots like ChatGPT, which are very similar to search engines. Just learn to go type your question into the Google machine, right? Go type it into Google. 99 times out of 100, Google's going to answer your question without somebody else needing to waste their time to give you the same answer. Number two, the second thing you can do is any community that has a way to go back and search through history. So your web forums, your mailing list, subreddits, things like that. Search for past posts of people asking the same question as you, because I promise you, 99% of the time, easily 99% of the time, the question you are asking has been asked and answered before. So it's already been typed out by somebody on that forum. It's already there. Why waste somebody else's time asking the same question again when you can just type it into the search bar? The third thing you can do to not be a help vampire is when you ask a question, make it a detailed post. If you only write one or two very short sentences asking a question on something, I promise you that's not enough information. Did you tell me exactly what operating system, what software you're running, what versions, what drivers? You know, we're just hypothetical here, but there's a lot of detailed information, chances are, that needs to be in that post that you're not providing. So if your question is very short, very vague, very generalized, that's not enough information, because then I've got to come back, if I'm somebody that wants to support you, I've got to come back now and ask you to please provide me all of this other information that you should have provided in the first post anyway. We may end up wasting 5 or 6 different back and forth exchanges of me asking you for more information, for more information, for more information, where if you just give me every possible little bit of information that could be relevant up front, again, it saves so much time. And the fourth and final thing you can do not to be a help vampire is when you ask your questions, ask in a polite way, right? Be polite, be respectful. If you come across as a friendly, likable, pleasant person, you're far more likely to actually get my help and other people's help, right? If you come across as somebody that's kind of a douchebag, somebody that's entitled, that's demanding help, and you've got to give me help right now because I said so, there's no way in hell I'm going to help you, right? Your post is just going to sit there. People are just going to largely ignore you, and that's probably not what you want, right? But in many ways, it's counterproductive. You think you going there and being angry, right, is going to make people give you support. It's actually the opposite. Go there and in a polite way say, hey, can anybody help me with this? Hey, has anybody ever seen this problem before? And then give a little bit of a detailed response of about your problem, what you've tried, research you've done, and again, ask it in a very polite, friendly manner. If you seem like a pleasant person, somebody will probably help you. Anyway, food for thought, guys. Peace.